is WPwatercooler episode number 341. The joys of good WordPress.
What up?
Hosting? Joys of good WordPress
Hosting.
Okay.
Yes, the joys of good WordPress hosting. This particular episode of WPwatercooler is brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. Thank you very much, sir, for ServerPress for helping us out. We really appreciate it. If you want to do local WordPress development easy, that's like almost like a like hosting your own WordPress locally on your computer. Just to play around with it, take a look at it, and check it out. You can do 3 free episodes, three free sites on your WordPress through desktop server. Feel free to go take a look at that over there at serverpress.com.
So if you sign up for ServerPress, you get 3 free episodes of Watercooler. Hey, coming at ya.
Watch out, free episodes of Watercooler. Speaking of which, let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. Manny, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm based in Las Vegas. I build websites using WordPress. I'm one of the co-organizers of the WordCamp Las Vegas, and I'm here to talk about hosting.
Awesome. Good to have you on. Brianna, how about you?
Hi, I'm Brianna. I am of Techno Siren. I currently work with Zayo, and I've been building WordPress websites for a really long time.
Good to have you on. How about you, Various?
What's up, everybody? I'm Various, and I am the founder of Philoveracity, a web marketing agency, the founder of the Inland Empire WordPress Meetup Group, and founder and co-organizer for WordCamp Riverside, which is happening in November 8th through 10th.
Oh, Say doesn't get to talk about WordCamps anymore. This is great. Hey, but you, Glenn, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, Glenn Ingram, owner of Web Search Pros. We do ADA compliant web design, optimization, and coming to you live from Las Vegas because I aspire to be like Manny when I grow up.
Awesome. Good to have you on. Say, how about you?
Hello, I am Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, add Say Reed Media on all the things. Although at some point I suppose I should talk about my other company, which I never talk about. CEO, principal, and founder of Keratin Collaborative. This is a fun note. I've never said that on here before, but true fact.
You never have. I even asked you to, and you said no.
350 shows, first time.
I haven't done anything with the socials for it. Also, founding co-organizer of WordCamp Long Beach. Boom, in your face, Jason. And at Savory Media on all the things. Ding.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do this show as well as another show called WP Blab. Feel free to go take a look over at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can subscribe to this content and all the other content that we put out on the network. You guys are hilarious. You guys, you've been trained by all the 14-year-olds on YouTube to point down whenever somebody talks about subscriptions.
I can subscribe.
What do you guys do? What do you guys do when I say like ring the bell or leave a comment? What happens with that?
Sorry.
I just like to try to point at it because I'm like going the other way, and it makes me laugh to be every time be like, what direction is that? I don't know. Like playing in a funhouse here.
So let's talk a little bit about web hosts. How about that? Do you want to intro? Go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to blurb. So I was having this morning I pushed a site that I was doing updates on to production from staging. And I was having this whole moment because there's this person who I don't know who they are. I don't remember their Twitter handle. I should. But every Friday they tweet, hey, FYI, Go push to production because it's Friday. And I just appreciate that so much every Friday. And while I was pushing to production, I was thinking about that Twitter account and how she says that every week and how I was pushing to production on a Friday and how I shouldn't do that. But then I was also thinking about this client site's on WP Engine. And I was thinking about how safe it makes me feel to be on. There she is.
Yep, Kelly Vaughn.
Awesome. Kelly Vaughn. Shout out to the hilarity of being consistent with that. It's like the best reminder ever. So also someone, I don't know if it was her the other day, was like, don't unclench your jaw. I have random tweets that are just like good reminders. I was like, that's a good one. Unclench.
Say they're all bots.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
They're
she actually runs a podcast called Ladybug Podcast, and it's an awesome podcast. All ladies doing coding.
Anyway, it's a great tweet. It's a great thing she does. It's a great service to humanity. But anyway, I ignored it this week, and I was just thinking about how I was doing it anyway. But how, because I'm on WP Engine, and I was on the staging site, and I was just like updating with abandon, like, because I'm on the staging site, so it doesn't matter. So I just clicked things, and I was just having this flashback to the old days when updating like that would give me such anxiety, and it was just such a thing because, and I definitely wouldn't push anything to production because I'd be probably working on production. And it just made me feel so nice and safe in that WP Engine land. And then when I push the deploy staging to live button, like, it doesn't even cause the crazy anxiety. Like, I get more anxiety pushing a send MailChimp button with the little sweaty monkey hand. You guys see MailChimp at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sweaty monkey hand. Where he's like, oh God, you're going to push it. But like, I was like, click, because I can just undo it if there's a problem, and I've already tested it all on staging. So I was just thinking about how lovely that is to have that environment that just works and allows you to roll things back, and is such a nice. It brings me joy and pleasure to be able to do that without all the anxiety of ye old days.
We got folks in the chat that are saying all sorts of stuff about pushing to production, and also people just being really nice and sharing with one another. Like, for instance, Cosper posted this here saying that he likes the fact that they have a group chat where they remind people to take their antidepressants. So that's pretty awesome.
That is nice. I love it. What is that? Manny's like spamming us all.
I'm gonna send you a meme. So
don't click
you
that.
like base 64 in an image, and then the whole thing. What the heck is going on here?
My bad.
So what are some good characteristics of great web hosts? Say mentioned earlier about staging servers being an awesome thing, especially if they're deeply integrated in that dashboard. I think that's probably a really, really good one.
Free SSL.
Free SSL, yeah.
Oh, also great. Pre-configured SSL.
Yes.
That's you know what? That is a joy. That's nice.
It's very nice.
Thank you for not making me do that. I appreciate it. That's a good one.
Yes.
Daily backups, free daily backups.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know what? Honestly, I think people take that for granted. There are hosts that I know and clients that I've worked with who work with these hosts. They don't do backups. And the clients think their stuff is backed up in their site. They come to me, they're like, my site is hacked. I'm like, well, you didn't have a backup, did you? Yeah, I thought I was doing it. Yeah.
They have the backup of the hacked site. That's the best.
Or the other thing is if the host has to restore it, the host will charge them like a very sufficient amount,
Yeah.
It's not a good cost center. That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shouldn't be where you're making your money.
Uptime.
Ooh.
No random weird server errors. I feel like I'm in a weird position because I ran a WordPress hosting company for a while, and like
there was no staging site. That was pre-staging.
There was no staging site. There was labs, but
there was labs.
But like my concerns were not the same as the client concerns,
Right.
But areas in which that dovetails, all the things we just listed, definitely free SSL and easy to use SSL. I really like WP Engine as a consumer because that stuff is easy and seamless. And then as a dev, it took me a really long time to move my own stuff to them because I just wanted SSL access. There's a lot of stuff or SSH access. There's a lot of stuff I needed to do on the shell or like couldn't quite do through their support. And I do want to say they have like the best support of any host I've worked with ever.
WP Engine?
Yes, their support is phenomenal. And in fact, maybe not to the best degree because I rely on their support in a way that I literally do not with any other tech company out there. Like there are tasks that I literally will just be like, you know what? Support will do this and they'll do it in 5 minutes. I'm going to chat them right now.
Yeah, the converse of that is, and I used to really recommend these for a lot. So I actually have a lot of like friends and old clients that I don't work with anymore that are on SiteGround because I used to really like them.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, because if you go ask them anything about they're like, sorry, we can't help you. Sorry, we can't help you. And I tried to, for a friend, this was because he's a nonprofit, so I was helping him out. And I tried to set up a staging site on his shared host on SiteGround the other day. And not only did it like completely just combust the whole staging site, it looped the staging site to another client site.
Yeah.
On the staging, like, so I was like, what is this crazy site? Like, and I was like, is this a spam site? This seems like an actual site, like just some niche weird site. So I actually went and looked it up, and they just have their regular registry, you know, it's like, it didn't seem like they're spam at all. And they're hosted on SiteGround. And I was like, oh my gosh, they just crossed their freaking wires here.
So that's good. The good thing would be to have staging very tightly integrated into, you know, like WP Engine has. Have it very
I don't know
tightly
what
integrated.
nonsense this was, but like literally the staging site, and now I can't access that site. I tried to clear everything that there possibly was, and they couldn't. They were like, we can't reproduce it, so we can't help you. You should just clear your cache. Restart your modem. I'm like, restart my modem? Okay. Like, what the hell? Like, that was literally the advice they gave me. And like, so I still can't access that site from my laptop, and I can from my desktop, which has nothing to do with my IP address, but okay. So anyway.
So I showed it earlier, but Cosper was saying that server-side caching is something that's really good there. And then also Ross Giles said that having your latest version of PHP, I think, is good too.
PHP is a big deal.
Yeah. I just had to update. I just had to update a site on HostGator, and HostGator was on 5.4, I think, and it was hilarious because it was like you can update to PHP, but it was like this is the stable version, and the other one is the edge version. I was like, PHP 7 is not an edge version anymore, HostGator. Like, what planet are you on? It was like, if I was a consumer, I would have been like terrified by their language on that page. There's no way I would have ever updated. There's
another one here. Ross was saying that if the site's running PHP 5, definitely upgrade.
Yeah, well, everything's
and look into that.
So
if you have a site on HostGator,
sites
on HostGator, you have to go update them because they still are like super happy on the 5-point land.
Yeah, I've been running a VPS since 2012. Actually, I met someone in Vegas. I lived in Vegas, and he was running like this, you know, his own hosting. And then I was working with him, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to shut my host down." I'm like, "Oh, well, what am I going to do?" He's like, "You should check out this place," and it was a place called Known Host. So I've been with Known Host. Known Host. They're relatively unknown, but it's managed VPS that I've been with them for forever. And like, they're super speedy on all their support, but the cool thing is you get root level access. And I don't know if you've dealt with that before, but you have a lot of permissions. If you want to experiment, learn a lot about DevOps stuff, that's where I've been for a long time.
Yeah. In my case, back in 2015, I moved to Vegas, and I went to the AWS reInvent convention. And I learned a lot there about EC2 instances and those kind of things. And I used to have hosting everywhere. So now I combined everything together, and I run my own hosting. I either use Easy Engine, which is a WordPress-based WordPress hosting, or WordOps, because Easy Engine version 4, they went to Docker, and WordOps is like a fork of the old version of Easy Engine.
So wait, how is that actually? That's just reselling hosting. That's not doing your own hosting.
Not really.
No, he's talking about deployment.
Yeah,
more like how he's setting up his containers. So, Manny, are you like on a cloud service?
Yes, I use AWS EC2.
You use AWS, okay.
Yeah. And then I set up my own Easy Engine or WordOps for my
clients. Your own.
Yeah. So
not on it, reselling hosting.
Yeah.
Can we maybe talk about the levels of hosting? Because, you know, there are different levels. Like, there's shared hosting. Yep. And then there's, virtual private servers. which are usually on virtual machines.
There's specific WordPress managed hosting.
Managed hosting, WordPress managed hosting.
And then there's like cloud storage sort of hosting. I don't know what's a good word for that. Like AWS and DigitalOcean.
I think
Basically cloud hosting.
one of the main
servers.
One of the main mistakes that like beginners that started doing WordPress do is they install WordPress and they forget about it. Like these small business owners, I can do this myself. And then they install WordPress, they forget about it, they forget to update, they forget to maintain the website. They get hacked, and then they say, oh, what happened? No, and then they blame WordPress. But it's because lack of knowledge. When you do WordPress, you get all the freedom of having it to do whatever you want and all those 50,000 over plus plugins that are available. But there is the responsibility also to maintain the website. But they forget about it. They don't know that because perhaps they come from an old static HTML website, but then when you do have WordPress or any other those CMSs, right? Any of them,
we don't talk about those on here.
Yeah, to maintain them, right?
They do not exist.
Yeah. So do you think it's good to have a web host that gives you like a base install of WordPress ready to go, or do you feel that you would much rather have it to where it's asking you like, oh, what type of website are you building? And now it's going to install like 500 different plugins and 500 different themes, and it gives you all these like preloaded themes. Like it seems to be where there's these like mixtures between if you're somebody who's starting off brand spanking new, and you just like created a WordPress a WordPress hosted site, and it's like, okay, well here's everything ready to go for you. That might be good for like the beginner, but somebody like us, we want like the most bare bones, basic, stripped down version of WordPress that then we can start from there. So,
I mean, what are you talking about building for? Because I build for clients, right? So I in no way want that. I don't want to have to build something custom for these clients because I want them to be able to go to support and get help from them because I'm not on call and that is not my job. So like I hook up all of my clients with managed hosting across the board. And I want them to have, so there's some, basically all of them, well, that's not true because there's some managed hosts that have a bunch of stuff that gets auto installed, but it's mostly the quick installs on shared hosting that have all of that bloat. Like I have a screenshot. I took a screenshot of it because it was so bad. I just did a fresh on that HostGator site that I was putting that I updated the PHP on. I put a dev site up just to start experimenting because there's no staging. And, it literally put in opt-in, like every WP beginner plugin that was possibly, and WordPress was out of date, and all of the plugins were out of date. So
wow,
all that started was first of all, it was a nightmare of pop-ups in the admin, and then the plugins were all out of date, and the core was I was like, this is like who is this for? Who is this working for?
It sounds like a cPanel type deal where the panel's pre-configured.
Right.
And what's weird or ironic is that like my preferred style of hosting for myself, which is to use an image to spin up a new container, essentially, is a really similar and much simpler and more direct model and not really consumer accessible. So like finding a good place where that dovetails, I think that's where WP Engine and Pantheon have been really successful.
I'm a huge fan of DreamPress, DreamHost's DreamPress service. They have great support. It's super clean. It's a really easy interface. So, and it's it's not expensive. So it's like, to me, it's kind of like the go-to like managed host for just kind of someone who needs, a website. Most business sites at this point, that's what I'm referring to, because it doesn't have crazy installs of everything except for Jetpack, which they include Jetpack Premium. So
it has their security, because DreamHost wasn't really known for being awesome with that a while ago, and it's been a long time since I've worked with them. Like, have they improved their?
They're great now. See, that's the thing, right? Like even GoDaddy, which dissing in the pre-show, Manny. Like I used to be the biggest
Don't put all that on Manny. It was all of us.
I was the biggest. Was it you, Various? Someone was anti-GoDaddy.
That was me.
Was it Glenn? Whoever
That's
it
me.
was.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit everybody.
I mean, I used to be totally anti-GoDaddy, but their onboarding for new WordPress clients is like real good.
Yeah,
And
they've got a good process, and they put together a plugin for that as well. So
yeah, they have a really solid service now, and it kind of pains me a little bit every time to actually. I do the DreamHost, but even GoDaddy's changed. My point being is like the services change, and it's like, especially when we've been in the biz for a long time, you kind of get comfortable in your spot, and then new things pop up or people start to deteriorate. Like, I don't know why everyone's still talking about Bluehost like that's anything that is a thing.
Right.
Like, I'm like, are we still?
Well, that's similar to one-on-one hosting.
I have
Yeah.
I have all of my domains registered at 1-in-1. It's so bad.
1-in-1 is, man, that was the roughest time that I've had working with clients.
Is 1-in-1 an EIG company or no?
They're called IONOS now. Also, they don't even call it 1-in-1 anymore.
Yeah, all the EIG companies are kind of
iPower was the worst. I'm sorry, iPower was the worst.
I run things a little bit differently than what Shay was saying. Literally, when I started my company, I was fortunate to live across the street from the guy that owned the biggest .NET nuke hosting company in the world back then. And he said, if you're going to be building sites, if you're going to be doing this, you may as well get a dedicated server and charge them for hosting, because they're going to pay somebody. Why not let them pay you? And the simple analogy was, if you build 100 sites in the next couple of years and you charge $50 a month, guess what? You're making $6,000 next year just from hosting.
Yeah,
So,
I consider that to be one, unethical, and two, a little bit of you're keeping those people hostage. I don't believe in having your developer and your hoster be the same person. I have seen so many small businesses be taken advantage of that situation. So I wouldn't say unethical.
I wouldn't say unethical.
I think it'd be unethical.
I have seen it be unethical.
If you
sure.
Yeah, if you were holding them hostage, absolutely. But you could have it, set for it and clear that whenever they want to leave, it's in the contract.
month to month.
Yeah, you just do it simple. You can take a backup. You can take a backup.
Charging people for something that they could have their own credentials for, and some people are fine with that. But a lot of times, I'll see someone charge someone $100 a month for hosting that's costing them like $2, and I don't think that that's right personally. So,
but they're in a completely different community. You're not going to be on there with 5,000, 10,000 sites that you have to worry about those sites getting hacked and coming over and affecting your service, when you can minimize and control that stuff and make sure that every site on your server is updated, managed, and stuff like that.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I have a VPS, is because I do have my clients on there as well. And if I wanted to go dedicated one day, I'll do that. But VPS, gives you that full control, and everything's optimized to be faster. It's not this shared host. And I mean, if they need support, I'm there to support them. And so,
yeah, I don't want that pain any at all. Like if their site goes down or if there's some outage, like it's not worth it to me to have that money, in addition to the issues of what are you charging people and all that other stuff. Like, I want my clients to be independent of that. And in fact, I try to make them as independent as possible. So if something happens to me, like I win the lottery and I move to the mountains somewhere, then they can still have their site. They have all their own passwords. They have their own hosting. I train my clients to use support as much as possible. Some of them are not trainable to do that, but at the very least, I get them on like hosts that have support so that they can access that stuff. I think what I've seen for small businesses has been so bad. And I'm not saying you do this, Glenn, or you do this, Various, these are individual things, but the by far the majority of developer hosted websites that I've seen are basically people being held hostage and being overcharged.
You can't do that as a public figure. So I'm a public figure, and if that ever happened, that'd be the end of my credentials.
This is kind of
easy to automate things right now, because I mean, literally, you can automate it to where you can take your backup once a month, plop it over into a shared drive or whatever. So if I would get hit by a car tomorrow, all they have to do is go to their shared drive. Here's your backup. the file, plug it in the next server.
You know how to go to their shared drive with their backup and do stuff with that.
What JD's saying here in the comments makes sense, and this is one of the reasons why. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Steve, but Steve's not here to defend himself, so I'll speak for Steve. Steve's always said that that he to go with the companies. You know, if you're going with him to do the web development, you're going to him because he's a specialist at web development.
Right.
He's not a specialist at web hosting. And
Right.
he doesn't want to be a specialist at web hosting. I mean, I applaud you folks who either are currently doing web hosting for your clients and the ones that got out of it and realized like, oh my gosh, do I really want to do this for a living or not? Those companies have those people and they have that infrastructure. And, you know, when they hire you, they understand that, you know, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of you that work for that website and work for that, you know, are going to actually be the ones building that site. But when it comes to the web hosting side of things, you need 24/7 support. You need somebody babysitting the servers all the time. You need all that stuff. And if you don't have that, I wouldn't recommend, you know, I wouldn't recommend, I want to recommend the company that's going to provide those things. And I wouldn't recommend myself because I'm not available to do that 24/7.
Yeah. And that's the difference.
What we've seen though as the evolution, and I know this firsthand because from 2004 to 2011, I ran a hosting company where I built a box and I brought it to a co-location place and I said, hey, this is my box and we do WordPress websites. And the hosting was separate from the development. They were priced out separately. It was, you know, hosting was its own thing, development was its own thing. What I really like about today's managed hosting is the way there's a clear understanding that there are different types of users in the control panel. There are developers, there are account owners. They may or may not be the same person. And the developer is always going to need specific access to things. So I like that a lot. I like where managed WordPress hosting is today, especially because the third area in which they're getting to is local development and deployment. And so Flywheel has its own Get Local. WP Engine just rolled out DevKit. Pantheon uses Lando and Docker in a really phenomenal way. I mean, like, it's top to bottom. They're doing the whole continuous integration workflow.
Right.
And we have a lot of really good options. And it's not even necessarily a competition because all 3 of those hosts that I just mentioned, I work with every week.
Exactly.
You know?
And you know what? You can still charge your clients to keep those accounts maintained and updated because they don't necessarily want to interface with the hosting company or whatever. So it's not like you're taking yourself out of the game in terms of like not hosting for them. It's that you are allowing them to get better, in my view, you're allowing them to get that better service while still maintaining that access and not being responsible for something that, you know, if a server got hacked for some host that, you know, that I was maintaining, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Like, that's not in my wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's a difference. There needs to be a distinction between managed hosting and unmanaged hosting. So everything that I do is managed. And I don't work unmanaged. So if I owned a VPS that was unmanaged, there wouldn't be any support, you know, that's available to my clients, you know, or me because it's unmanaged. But I use managed, everything managed.
And that's the beauty of working with good managed companies is literally they have the place where we're with has 3 locations, one on each coast, basically Arizona, Florida, and I think it's Michigan. And so literally they can have everything backed up. So if something would happen and a hurricane hits Florida, within an hour, you're up and running in one of the other servers. So there's a lot of benefit from working with these managed servers that I think gives you a better option since some of the shared hosting places where basically everything's in Salt Lake City. And if that facility goes down, everyone's crashed.
I mean, is that even a thing anymore? Like everyone, I mean, any host that's worth its salt has redundant servers, right? Like
even 15 years ago, redundancy was a thing. My little dinky hosting company, we were redundant to 3 different US locations. So
right.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty standard at this. That would be alarming. Like that would be like real bad if someone didn't have at least redundant systems set up in terms of hosting. But really, I think it's about the client and giving that client the ability to have the freedom to do that and to you know, be connected and have all of their own services. I call it having the keys to your own castle. And I think that everyone should have the keys to their own castle, and
Mhm.
you can get a spare key and they will let you have the spare key, and then you can let yourself in and out as you need to keep things, running. But I never recommend to my clients that they host with any sort of reseller or anything.
Right.
I want them to have their own account access.
Yeah, and they can do that when you have a managed VPS. They have their own cPanel. They can get into there. They do whatever they want,
Mhm.
And that's it, folks.
Oh, damn.
What'd you say?
That's it,
so many
folks.
more
It's 30 minutes. Sorry. So, go over to our website at wpwatercooler.com/subscribe. Glenn's face is totally gone behind that there. But yeah, go over there and go take a look at it. This show is made available as the audio podcast as well as a video on YouTube. We stream this live on Facebook, onto Twitter, onto all sorts of places. So feel free to go watch us at all those places there as well. And lastly, I want to say thank you for all you folks for coming on the show here, talking a little bit about the joys of good WordPress web hosting. I really appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.